It was Rosh Chodesh Adar, so he was running around the Dira and whatever he was doing, jumping up and down, and his mother, the Rebbetzin, said, "It's enough already. It's enough already." So he just was going Rosh Chodesh Adar, going wild. And she said, "I'm going to tell Tati. I'm going to wait till when Tati comes home. I'm going to tell her." So let's say it was the Beis Halevi and the Reb Chaim. So when the Beis Halevi came home, so he was sitting in a chair like an angel, So the Rebbetzin said, why are you sitting like this? You were just meshuggah for the past hour. When Tati's home, he says, yes, Mom. He says, Mishenichnas Ada Marbin Besimcha, Mishenichnas Av Mamatin Besimcha.
I hear, very good. That's very good. That's you got to be a sharp one to come up with that.
Yeah, so it's one of them. I mean, Pasid said into any of them.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a good one. Okay. So what are we up to? Also, we started discussing that sugya yesterday of what was it? Oh, double rive, right? Okay, so what time tomorrow? What time's early Shabbos?
I think it's 6:30 tomorrow.
6:30? So late still?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do 1:45. Yeah.
Okay, unless the Shabbos is early already, Tiago.
I'll do 1:45, even though 72 minutes up here is around 9:40. I should be able to get rolling at 9:45. So let's go for 9:45. I might be a couple minutes late. I'll try my best. Yeah. Fine. Okay, so so anyway, so what were we discussing? We were discussing the sugya of this woman who went down to the water, right? And Peretz is a pshat, Taka. You said, why does he need the story for? So one of the Mefarshim says that a story, right, is never a story. A story is never brought in Shas to bring another shita. It's not. When they bring a story, it's to back up an opinion, something like that. I don't remember exactly the pratim, but that's why there's a reason why they brought the story, not so that you shouldn't think it's a different sheet. The meaning, because right off the Gemara says, who's he going like? Who's Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri going like? It's not going like Rabbi Gamliel. He's not going like Rabbi Yeshua, right? So the kasha is, what do you mean? Who cares? He's a Tana. He doesn't have to go like any other Tana. He's his own Tana, right? Gershon, that's your style kasha. Right? The Gemara says, who's Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Says if you go with the Raiv, if the Raiv men in the city, then she's still kosher to kahuna, right? And who does Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri go like? Either it doesn't go like Rabbi Gamliel, it doesn't go like Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, wonderful. L'maisi, he's a Tana. He could go by himself, right? He could paskin like himself. Anyway, so that's what it's saying, that it's coming to show that no, the reason why I brought a story is because a story is never going to bring a third opinion. A story means that it's already part of another opinion that's already existing. Memela, that's why the Gemara asked this kasha. But either way, so we said we go basa roiv. We're going to go basa roiv, but then we said that it doesn't really work according to the Gamliel. The only reason why it works is because it was talking about when the marketplace was open, and since the marketplace was open, there were two roivs here. The roiv of the men in the city were kosher, and even if it's not from the city, roiv of the people visiting the city were also kosher, right? So since it's two roivs, so therefore we trust two roivs, and we're going to say that she's allowed to marry a kohen.
That an Halacha Yid raped her.
Correct, like you said. Yes, it comes out that at least not a puzzle Yid.
Didn't we say earlier that that we passed like Shmuel Paskin like Rabbi Gamliel?
That Shmuel Paskin.
How does that fit with you? So how does that, if we're saying just like Rabbi Yeshua, how does that fit with the old shtickle Torah about the mission not giving a cert? The mission is bringing a riot not according to the. So Shmuel's passing like against the story. He passing like Rabbi Gamliel.
Why are you saying Shmuel? What's Shmuel?
Shmuel Paskin before, like Rabbi Gamliel, no?
Yeah, I'm saying, but what here we're saying that Rabbi Gamliel would be Maida.
The Mishnah. Rabbi Gamliel's.
We have to see. Let's see the Amud because it's going to go through Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua on the bottom of the Amud. We'll see. Let's see how the Gemara goes through this, right? So again, we said, okay, we're 1, 2, 3, 4. We're up to 6 lines down from the top of a pirish echad mitzipayri, right? Yeah, so we said again that we're talking about where it was when the people came to the Yerid, to the sale, whatever it is. So it's a double roy. So the Gemara is saying, but let's say one of them came from Tzipayri, right? And was ma'anisher, havlad shtuki. So then the vlad is going to be considered a shtuki, which we call the shtuki is somebody who's quiet, meaning he doesn't know who the father is. And it's not going to work, right? Now Rashi says the bechad ruba loy machsha. It's one roy, because if he just came, if we know for sure he came from the city, then and not from the caravan. Let's say you knew, however you know, I don't know how you know exactly. Meaning it has to be a situation where you know the guy definitely came from the city, but you don't know who the guy is. I'm not sure how that would work.
Well, the city was all ger. They were all wearing spadiks, and the caravan was all streimluch. Whatever hat you found by the place, she came back with a hat.
In a lot of cities, they close the gate at night. I mean,
she's saying you knew for sure that's okay. I hear that. Maybe. Okay, I hear either one of those. Okay, so it's talking about, so the Gemara is saying, Gemara is being medayik, but if you knew that it was one, you knew he's from the city, so it's not going to work. Meaning you take out that it was Rav Dimi. We go after the majority of the city. We don't go after Roiv of the Sia, literally means travelers. Right? Meaning if you're far away from the city, so in a city, you're going to go with the majority of the city. But if you're going to go from outside the city, then you're not going to go with the Roiv. So the Gemara says, Klape Laya, it should be the opposite. Hani, Naidi, Vahani Kvi, Vekaimi. These, the ones that are traveling, meaning if this happens, they're outside of the city, so they're Naidi, they're moving around. Vahani Kvi, Vekaimi. And the ones in the city are Kavua, which we know that Kol Kavua, Kemerza al Merza. Again, we're going to need to know this at tonight's stuff. Major yichus in Halacha, which is that when you have a suffix, so depending on where the suffix comes from, that's going to be totally in how we go with it. It requires a lot of I don't know if it requires betachin because it's not an easy thing to understand. Meaning the classic case which you're going to have in the bottom of the Amud is you have 9 stores of kosher meat and 1 store of treif meat. So let's say you took the meat from a store, you just have no recollection which store you bought it from. So that's called kavua. It's coming from a kavua place, meaning the suffix started from when you took it out of the store. So since the store is stationary, that's called kavua. And called kavua is 50-50 chance. And even though 9 out of 10 stores are kosher, we're going to still have to be machmir. Because since it came from a place that's kavua.
But wouldn't it be that you wouldn't go into the kosher store, the non-kosher store?
Well, he went to vape. He vapes also. That's the whole place. So he went into the non-kosher store also.
No, maybe he went to buy non-kosher food for his cleaning lady face or something like that. I mean, he doesn't remember. All right, but so that's kavua. But let's say he found a piece of meat in the street, and we're trying to figure out which store this piece of meat came from. So that's called parish. That's not from that's Shaila started in the middle of the street. So therefore, that's called the parish. Meruba parish. There we say it's a majority. So again, it's the same suffix. You have 2 guys that come to the Rav. One guy says his suffix started from the store itself. He just doesn't remember which store he got it in. For him, it's a 50-50. We have to answer it. But if guy found a piece of meat in the street, then we're going to say called the parish, meruba parish, and therefore we go with the Rav. So what the Gemara is asking,
that should be on your list of things we don't understand.
That's a-
that's without a hashgacha, you can have that.
Right.
Yeah,
That should be on your
correct,
list.
correct.
If you find something in the middle of the
Fine.
street, you're gonna say it's kosher. Then if you don't remember which store out of 10 stores and one is not kosher, where you bought it from.
Yes,
It's purely statistical. It's a slightly different suffix. If the suffix in a piece of meat, then there's more than two options. There's 10 options.
This becomes very
If the
relevant.
suffix
All
is
I'm
in the
saying
store,
is logically
it's
on
a
our own
50-50.
brains, it would be the other way around.
no, the suffix is in the store. It's 50-50. The
Rav
store
Aaron,
can
I
either be
think Rav
The
Aaron
kosher
store
or
would
not.
understand what I'm saying.
the store is mechsal mechsa. That's it.
That's it. It's either one or the other.
Yeah.
It's not one of 10.
Yeah, that's it.
yeah. So that okay, but
Well,
good.
we
Why
have a
isn't it
kashrus,
one
so you
of-
can
why
eat all
is-
3 pieces of
Why
meat.
is it not one of 10?
Because the store itself is either kosher or not kosher. There's only two statistical possibilities.
9 of the stores are kosher.
Doesn't
the
matter,
chances-
but each store is either kosher or not kosher. That's a
No.
50-50. Same as
One
flipping
out
a
of-
coin.
Only 10% of the stores are not kosher. 90% are kosher.
That's when the suffix in the meat. The meat could come from 10 different places. The
This-
store
this-
can't be another store. The store is what it is.
So what?
It's either kosher or
So
not
what?
kosher. If I don't know, I don't know.
There's
Yeah.
no. This is a
90%
different
chance
type
it
of.
is kosher.
This
So
is-
you would if you had a 90% chance to seal second, you would send them. No. It's 90% chance is kosher, and only 10% is that it's strafe.
Yeah, but it's
It's the way it
50-50 if
is.
he's either
It's the
out or
halacha.
safe for Byron.
Guys,
That's
guys,
true too.
This is not a discussion of statistics when it comes to the halacha. The halacha is that's the way it is.
Correct.
I
We're
mean,
trying to
it
understand
doesn't-
why. Well, that's all. It's just hard. It's hard to understand why.
It is different, and there's a whole very fascinating discussion that Rabbi Liebitz brought up about the children who were secreted away in the Holocaust, and were they Jewish and not Jewish, and was it
Yeah,
a
we
Roman
discussed.
Ukrainian?
Yeah, we discussed
Yeah.
it last night.
Yeah,
we
it's
discussed it last night.
it's a very fascinating sugya, but the bottom line is that's the halacha.
Yeah, no,
that's
and
difficult to
we're trying to understand the halacha.
Doctor,
no way to understand it.
all the people on the shia, I don't know, I know everybody, I don't know about you, but all the other people in the shia, even the people like me and Naftali, we accept the halacha. You might not think so, but we do accept the halacha.
I don't
Most
think we
of the
can,
time.
Okay,
Most
outside of
of the
halacha, I don't think it's logical. I mean, it doesn't sound logical to me. So that's what I'm saying. Just
No,
have
We'll go
accept-
right back
No.
to what Liner said.
So-
What Liner started off. Thank you, Liner. You got the right exact thing. We don't. Well, Byron, this is one of the things you chalk up to. We don't know.
No,
We
it's
don't
not true.
understand.
Gershon, no, Gershon had a pretty good hezbollah, I have to say. Gershon had a pretty good hezbollah, I think. Either way, so the thing is like this. So now you have a suffix of
Second, Tiago, how do you explain the meat suffix that you have all 3 pieces and they're all kosher?
That's different.
Good,
Not.
Terrence, good. That's it. You
Okay,
put away all 3 pieces.
You can eat all 3. For sure, one of them's not kosher.
Right, one's strafe.
Well,
You pour yourself a Scotch rocks and you eat all 3. Right.
That one's a harder one to. Yes, that one is a harder one.
Why? That's called a parish. That's what it does. Roiv makes it true. All of them are kosher. The meat is bottled to the Roiv. That's where halacha comes in.
No, that's the doctor. That's what the doctor's saying.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the way they said it. That one's hard to understand. But they said when it's bottled and finished. Right. Anyways, so what's going on over here? So you have a suffix. Who was ma'anis? Who was ma'anis? The woman. Well, now, no, there's 2 shilas. One is that we know that the guy, the travelers ma'anis. That's a parish. So therefore, it should go with the majority. And if the majority are kosher, then the baby should be kosher and the woman should be kosher to marry a kohen, right? But if it happened in the city, so then who cares? Even if it's, as long as there's one guy that's not kosher, it should be kavua kamerza al merza. So that's what the Gemara is asking. Klape laya, hani daidi. The ones that are traveling should be you go bus a roiv because they're traveling. They're not in their home base. And hani kvi v'kaimi, and the ones in the city are kvi v'kaimi. Right? So Ella, so the Gemara says no. So what is it? We go after the majority of the city. That's when there's together with the majority of the city, there's also a majority of the people traveling through that are also kosher. So it's a double majority. We don't go only after the majority of the city. And we don't go after the roiv of the travelers. Meaning, one roiv is not enough for arayas or for kahuna in order to allow us to assume that this lady was raped by somebody kosher. You need two roivs. My timer, why do you need two roivs? One roiv should be enough, right? So gezerah roiv sia atu roiv ha'ir. There's a gezerah roiv of the sia atu roiv of the city. The kvi where Rashi says that the city is kavua, meaning since if you're going to allow the roiv of the travelers, so then you're going to say, oh, okay, so we go with the roiv. So we're going to go with roiv from the city too, which doesn't work because roiv of the city, they're kavua. So as long as there's one not kosher person there, we have to be worried that kol kavua kameftzal mef. So it's like 50-50. We can't be mekel. So therefore, the Gemara is saying we need a double majority. We need a majority of the city people to be kosher, and we need the majority of the people traveling. And then so the Gemara asks, nami, and the majority of the city also, either ka'azli inu legaba, if he went out of his house and he went to her, then called the parish miruba parish. Then we assume that once something separates, we assume it came from the majority. Now, like we said, with the 9 kosher stores and the 1 treif store, we're going to assume that it came from the kosher. So same thing here. If this guy left his house to rape her, which is the story in the Mishnah, right? He did it by the water. So then we should assume it came from the majority, right? So that's what Gemara is asking, right? So meaning, why do you need to, even in the, right? Again, the Gemara is saying that the reason why you need a double roiv is because we're afraid that we're not going to be mekel with the roiv. We're going to be mekel the roiv with the city because that's kavua. So the Gemara is asking, what do you mean it wasn't kavua? The guy moved away from his house. So it's not kavua, it's pirish. And so therefore we should go with the roiv. Like and somehow she was asking for trouble. She went to him or to them. Kavua, meaning this lady went to the men's house and then they raped her. I don't know how that fits with the Mishnah. The Mishnah says she went to draw water. Maybe it's a different case. Either way, but she went to them, so therefore it's kavua. Anytime you have something kavua, that's considered 50-50. Even if you have a majority tells you that it should be kosher, but since it's kavua, since it happened in the actual store or in the actual house, and therefore it's not. We don't go with the majority, and we look at it like 50-50, and therefore she's going to be puzzled. So again, you need 2 roivs. You need a roiv of the city and a roiv of the people traveling through the city. Something what I asked. So maybe Trey Ruby, do you really need 2 roivs? Vatanya, and now we start with all the classic cases. You have 10 stores, right? 9 stores sell basar shchuta. V'achas mecheres basar nevela. And one sells trade. And you took meat from one of the stores, and you don't know which store. Really, I don't know. It's interesting. I think that's just. You ever see that in the Gemara? The word is me'ezeh. It's one straight word, right? I don't think there's me'ezeh as 2 words. At least I don't know. It could be I saw it 100 times, but with the memory, right? But I'm saying me'ezeh is one word. It almost should have a dash at the end of the line, right? Okay. But either way, he has no idea which store he took it from. Again, 9 stores kosher, 1 store treif. He had amnesia. He has no recollection where he bought it from. So sveikoi also, the suffix is also, right? Because what we said, when the suffix happens in the store itself, in the kavua, then it's considered 50-50. But if you found it in the middle of the street, then halacha roiv, you go after the roiv, right? So and now you don't need 2 roivs here. The Gemara doesn't say that in order to, if you want to have the kosher meat, you have to have 2 roivs, meaning a roiv of the stores have to be kosher and a roiv of the suppliers have to be kosher, right? It doesn't say that. One roiv is enough. What?
If this guy takes this piece of meat,
yeah,
that he just took out of one store, and throws it into a pile of meat from the town, he just made it kosher.
No, because the suffix started. Yeah, you want to say now that piece of
throw
meat
it into a pile.
out.
Yeah, it's kosher now.
And it's kosher, but yes, but ain't lechatchila. You're not allowed to do that. If it happened, then yes, you're right. If it happened, then yeah, that would be correct, right?
And I'll tell you don't need to do that. The question is whether we need 2 roivs or 1 roiv is enough.
It's not kosher. We went through. It's not because it's kavua. So now it's gone.
Because you don't have roiv. But in general,
Right.
when you use roiv, you don't need two of them. That's where the kasha
No,
comes.
Here we're saying that it's one roiv. Here we're saying it's one roiv and that's it, right? Another example. Okay, whatever. The Gemara is going to go another example. That's the classic example. We just say if the majority of they found a piece of meat in the street, the majority of the stores are kosher stores. So therefore, you can assume that that piece of meat is a roiv. Now, there's no two roivs here. In order to make two roivs here, you'd have to say like this: roiv of the stores have to be kosher. Roiv of the traveling businessmen that come through town have to also be kosher. Then that would be right. But the Gemara doesn't say you need that. Just one roiv is enough. Yeah. So I think what I asked, like the doctor said, if you're going to say it's talking about where the doors of the Medina were not locked at night, the ka'asi la ruba me'alma, now you have a roiv of the world, meaning, so now you have a double roiv. There's a roiv that the meat came from one of the 9 kosher stores, and even maybe it didn't, maybe it came from some of the people that came through town. No, but that doesn't work because Reb Zera says that even if they were locked up, we still say roiv. So Gemara answers, and this is the yisoid. Maila asu b'yochsin. They made a special maila by yichus of a kahuna because since being a kohen is so important.
They're so special. They're so
correct,
special.
correct. Landau, Aaron Kaplan, you guys are so special. We got to make sure that the people that you marry are legitimate, right?
Everybody always tells me I'm special.
Yaakov, we had this a few blot ago already. We're on the,
Correct, but we're just reiterating it.
And we appreciate that.
In case we started the daf like at 8:15, which is too early for Landau, so maybe you missed it.
Thank you. I didn't. I was there that night. Thank you.
Right, but anyway, so Maila asu by Yuchsin, they made a Maila by Yuchsin. By the way, this kid, I told you to start the Shiloh camp with this one of these kids in camp.
This kid, is that whatever happened? He's still
this kid. No, so a kid today comes and says, we're going on a trip next part. Can I request not to be a roommate with a kohen? Because this kid is taking everything first, the best bed, the best shower. So finally I got fed up with this and I told the kid's Rebbe, I said, listen, tell the kid that he has to prove that he's a kohen. Where's his yichus? Where's his letter that he's a kohen? He has to prove it. We don't just believe you that you're a kohen. So it's seemingly put an end to the whole, he's got to prove it. How's the kid proving it? But anyways.
By the way, Rabbi Stein, with that proving that they're a kohen, Rabbi Granowski in Eretz Yisrael, he said that there was a kid whose father came to visit, and at Chakras, he was there to daven, and Rabbi Granowski went to give him kohen, and he's like, I'm not a kohen. Meanwhile, his son's been getting the kohen leave and duchening all year. Didn't prove it.
That's what happens when you go to a Baal Shuv yeshiva. I'm just letting you know.
No, but it's okay. It's an interesting story. It's an interesting story. But anyways, so that's why we're doing Maila Asu B'Yuchsin. So therefore, just for Kaihanim, we're going to say that you need a double roiv.
Aaron, would you, if you found the spaghetti kugel in the street in Cleveland, would you eat it or not? That's the test.
I think you know the answer to that one.
But anyway, yeah. Okay, so I don't know if that's the Maila also be using that we're talking about. Anyways, so that's the end of the shita, meaning it's a Maila also be using. Fine. So Gufa, now the Gemara is going to analyze it. Everything that's kavua is considered 50-50. Bein lekula, bein lechumra. Oh, so it doesn't make a difference whether you're going to be lenient with it or strict with it, which the Gemara is going to discuss. But essentially, when the Gemara says bein lekula, bein lechumra, what it means is that it means it's a din from the Torah. It's a din from the Torah. So since it's a din from the Torah, then you have to go with it whether it's lekula or lechumra, right? Minale l'Reb Zera. How does Reb Zera know this? So now the Gemara goes through a bunch of examples. If you say it's from 9 stores, kulan meichus basar shchuta, 9 of them sell kosher meat. Achas basar nevela, one sells basar nevela. V'lakach me'achas man, and he took from one of them. Ve'ni yadei me'ezim, and lachni doesn't know from which store he took it from. Sveikai aser, his suffix is aser. Uvenimtza, but if you find it in the street, halacha achar arrived, then you go basar arrived because it's called the parish. It's not, the suffix didn't start in the store, so you see, that you go with the roiv. So the Gemara's, that's not a raya. Hasam lechumra. We're looking for a way that we go with the roiv lekula. That's a chumra, right? Because we're saying, even though 9 stores are kosher, 1 is treif, we're still saying that it's mechza al mechza. Yeah, Ella mitisha tzvardim v'sheretz echad beineim. 9 frogs and 1 sheretz. The frogs are not sheratzim, so they're not metama, but regular sheretz is. So tisha tzvardim v'sheretz echad beineim, and there's 1 sheretz between them. V'noga be'echad man, and he touched one of them. So the shaila is, and ve'ini yadeya ve'eza ve'hen noga, and he doesn't know which one he touched. So now we don't know if he's tamei or not. So sveikai tamei. If misafik, he's tamei. So the Gemara says, no, hasam nami lechumra. There's also a chumra because we're saying that he's tamei. Right, so that's not a raya. Ella mitisha sheratzim, opposite case. 9 sheratzim, utzvardei echad. So 9 sheratzim and 1 frog, which beineim, in between them. So that means it's a 90% chance that he touched the sheretz. And he touched one, he doesn't know which one he touched. So b'reshus hayachid sveikai tamei. If this happened in reshus hayachid, so then the suffix is tamei. Reshus harabim sveikai tar, and reshus harabim suffix is tar. So that's a different din in sveikus of tuma, right? Another hard halacha enough to you to understand. You have the same suffix. If it's in reshus hayachid, a suffix is tamei. A suffix tamei reshus harabim, the suffix is tar. So you see clearly that here we're gonna say that it's tahar, even though it's a kula, right? It's obviously it's a kula because it's a 90% chance he touched the sheretz. We're gonna say no, we're gonna be makel. We're gonna say that it's tahar. So Gemara says, okay, with the raisa minala, how do you know from the Torah that we go with the majority, or we go kavua, this whole din of kavua k'mechza mechza, or if it's separated, we go with the majority. On makrav, arav loy v'kamalov. This is talking about by murder, right? So arav loy means he, as it goes, it was premeditated. The kamalov, and he came up against him, meaning to kill him, which means achi yischaven loy, he has to have kavanah to kill a particular person, and if he didn't and he killed somebody else, he's not going to be chayiv, right? For Rabbanan Amri, so that doesn't have to do with us. For Rabbanan Amri tvei Rab Yanai prat lezarek even legoy. It's talking about somebody who throws a stone inside a crowd that's comprised of yidden and goyim. Okay, so then there he would not be chayiv. So now the Gemara says, "Hey, what's the case there?" If you're going to say the ika tisha, yeah.
It's just funny, the shooting in Eretz Yisrael yesterday when they killed, the photographer killed the terrorist, Yimak Shamoy. So two yidden stopped. One, they both had license, but one didn't have his gun. So he threw a rock and he hit the terrorist in the head. And the other one shot him and killed him. But he threw a rock.
Chaka?
Yeah, he didn't. The first fellow didn't have his gun with him.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess he had a good shot. That's all right. Very good. So here we're talking about where he threw a rock into a crowd. Right? So if there's, what's the case? So if there's 9 Knanim ve'echad Yisrael b'neim and 1 Yisrael, so why don't we just say it? Why do you need the psak to say it has to be premeditated? But typically the ruba Knanim ninu, the majority of them are Knanim. So you don't need a psak to tell you that he's pattur. Inami palgo, and or you could say that it was 5 yidden and 5 goyim, but suffik nefashas lahakal. So and we say with suffik nefashas, we're always going to be mekum. So loitricha. So what's the case? Talking about the tisha Yisraelim. It's talking about where there were 9 yidden, uknani echad, and 1 goy beineim. Davale knani kavua, right? The knani is kavua, meaning it's in one place, right? V'chol kavua k'mechza mechza, and anything that's kavua is like 50-50 dummy, and yet we're still going to say that, meaning, and we would say he's chayiv, even though it was 9 yidden and 1 guy. We should say kol kavua k'mechza mechza, and he should be chayiv, right? But the pasuk comes to tell us that he's not chayiv. So you see from this that really minat Torah, we do say kol kavua k'mechza mechza.
If you hold chayish l'miyuta, is this a riot from this pasuk?
I l'chayra not, right? You'd have to. I imagine Rameir is going to have to figure out how to learn pshat in this. I
Unless
think.
he holds like the other sheet though.
Right. That's a good possibility, right? Yeah. No, I hear what.
Or if Shimon, no, I'm saying, but you don't have no makar then, no? If Shimon and anyone, they don't have makaras for it then.
Yeah.
The makar of Kol Kavua.
Yeah.
So Rav Meir, right, can be they said what he can be holding a sheretz in his hand. He can have 150 ways to say why it's tar. So how could you ever ask what Rav Meir holds or why he holds it? He wants it, whatever he holds, he holds.
I'm saying you could attempt.
I'm not asking why. I'm asking where.
You can't slug him up.
I'm not slugging him up. I'm asking where. What? So where is the tar?
No, he's saying he's trying to figure out what the pshat is. Right. I don't know. I don't know what he would say. Yeah. So then
he can say whatever he wants. He'll have a right for whatever he says. It doesn't matter what he says, Rav Meir.
Right. And a chanami. Yeah. So that's so I don't know what Rameh would say with this. Fine. So let's see. So Idna Rab Chia Barashi Amar Rab Halacha Rab Yosi. He says the halacha is like Rab Yosi, right? And that we go with the roiv of the people. For Rav Chana Barab Amar Rab Hayras Shah Haysa, it was a temporary. Now we have to rewind a little bit here because the Gemara is saying that Rab Chia Barashi says the halacha is like Rab Yosi. Now the Gemara's assumption right now is the halacha is like Rab Yosi, and you only need one majority. Again, just to review, our mishna said that the girl was raped by the water. And we said that who was it? Rabbi Yosi in the name of who was it? Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Right? Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said it's mutter. So the Gemara is assuming now it's mutter because you go with one roiv. The Gemara seems to be forgetting that the only reason why it works is two roivs. So he's saying that Allah is like Rabbi Yosi. But Rav Chana bar Rabba Amar Rav Hayra Shai, so you cannot say that the Allah is like that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri that Rabbi Yosi said over, because that was a Hayra Shah. That was a temporary kula for whatever reason. For whatever reason, they had to be mated this girl to marry Kayhanan. But stam in a regular case, we would not allow it. Right? So Master Rav Yirmiyah, so Yirmiyah asked, for yichus, do we not need two roivs? Which again, the Gemara already the Gemara already said that we need the two roivs. But now the Gemara is thinking that he only was being mater even just with one roiv. Right? So anyways. So the Yuchsin like by trade Ruby, but now on Talmud Beis, we learned in the Mishnah. Matzah batinak mushlach. So this is mamish the case that we discussed last night. After the Holocaust, we had all these kids in the orphanages. That's essentially a tinak mushlach. It's talking about a tinak who's they found the tinaks in the street, right? And what do you do with them? What's the status of these kids? So matzah batinak mushlach. Right on the top line of number base. Now you find a tinuk that's just literally means sent out into the street. If the majority of the city are goyim, so then the kid's going to be a goy. Yisrael. If the majority of the city is Yisraelim, then the kid's going to be a Yisrael. Mechza. Let's say it's 50-50, that it's going to be Yisrael. Right? Yeah, so let's see. I mean, that needs a hezber. So why are you saying if it's a roiv? If you say 50-50, it's Yisrael, so then you don't have to say that a majority is Yisrael. That goes without saying. Right? The Gemara is going to explain that. This is only talking about to let him live. I mean, not that you're going to kill him, but that you have to, you have to support him. But for yichus, we do not consider him a yid. Right? Meaning if he's going to want to be a yid, they're going to have to be megayirim. Right? So meaning that this baby is out from, if it's a girl, it's out from the kahuna. Right? Because, so we're going to say why in a minute, but again, we're mechuyev to let the kid live on the suffix that it's a yid. But for yichus, no. For Shmuel Amar, lefakeach alav sagal. And Shmuel says that we look at it as a yid to take off if the kid is a building falls down on the kid. So now it's going to be a chil Shabbos to save the kid. So we're going to say Shmuel says that we're going to save this kid. Right? Meaning it's enough of a yid that we're going to save this kid. Right? So now the Gemara is going to discuss. It's shtamise. So whatever the kasha is, you see that for yuchsin, we don't go with a roiv. For yichus, we don't go with a roiv. Meaning we'll treat him like a yid, but not for yichus. It's a hard thing to understand, this halakha. I mean, it's not really hard. It's hard to understand in the hezber, But in the halacha of it, it's like again a palginon. It's like we have to split hairs. He's going to be considered a yid that we have to be mechal Shabbos for him, and we have to make sure that he lives or she lives. But for yichus, no. For yichus, that we're not going to say that this kid is a yid. So the kid is going to have to go under gerus. Either way, you see that you don't go basar roiv. So Gemara answers, he just forgot that we said that the pshan in the Mishnah, where he was matter with one roiv, is talking about where it was the kroine shel tzipari, the wagons of tzipari, meaning it was an open season in the city, so there are two roivs. And that's why he matter in the Mishnah. Fine. So according to Rav Chana bar Rava, that it was a Rosh Shah, so then you have a kasha. Right? Because why do you have to say that it's a Rosh Shah? Right? So Gemara answers, Man de masniha, loy masniha. Now the one who learned that it was a Rosh Shah didn't learn the other din of that was talking about where the traveling people came to the city. Meaning those are two different maimarim, and you don't go with both. You don't need both. That's what it's saying. You don't need both. If you say it was a Rosh Shah, that means you're not learning out that there was actually other people in the city, so you had two roids. Right? That's all. Yeah.
Could you have a city without, New York City before the pandemic? So when everybody went to work, so 1 million people live in Manhattan, but another 1 million or 2 million go every day on the train into Manhattan. And there was 1 million visitors, overseas visitors every week in New York. There's 50 million overseas visitors in New York in a given year. So is there a cavias in New York? Is it not a cavias? Does it change all the time? And you have all the stores, but you have 500 food trucks riding all over the place.
Right, and a chanami, and the people coming in and out. It's an open city. I think that's the pshat that obviously I don't have a krana digrasa here to check, but when we discussed yesterday with the chuvas back and forth from the Stipler to Rav Yashiv about these yisaimim, so you need trey rubi, like we're seeing in our Gemara. Just how do you apply trey rubi nowadays in our cities? I think that was part of the whole ASIC. How do you even apply it? So since we don't know exactly how to apply it, so therefore we have to come on to another way of trying to explain it. Right? That's it's very hard to apply that nowadays. Fine. So Gufa, now the Gemara analyzes again this brisa about this kid you find in the street. So Gufa, matzah batinik mushla. You find a tinuk that's in the street. So if it's a city, it's Roiv Goyim, so the kid's going to be considered a Goy. Im Roiv Yisrael. If the city is a majority Yisrael, then it's Yisrael, right? Which, by the way, once you brought it up, Rabban, let's say you find the kid in the street in Far Rockaway on Reed's Lane. Is that considered? No, but is that Roiv Yisrael? Is that Roiv Yisrael?
Yeah, because 11691 has 65,000 people. Half of them are not yidden.
Right. So right. So then how do you go? Do you go bust to the zip code? Do you go bust to the streets? Do you go bust to the very difficult? It comes up a lot. We're going to get to it in a minute about with Hashavas Aveda. Because if you find an Aveda in the street, so if it's Roiv Goyim, you keep it. You don't have to do Hashavas Aveda. So when you find it on Reed's Lane, that's called Roiv Goyim or not? It's very hard to know. Like,
does Simanim make an appearance?
Who?
Simanim. Skin color.
Without getting involved with Simanim. I'm just saying, stop. In Hicksville Road, between Yeshiva Rockaway and the public school, I don't think you could say it's Roiv Yidden there. You got the public school.
If you find a white kid, it's going to be a Yid.
What?
If you find a white kid on Hicksville, it's going to be a Yid.
Okay. I'm saying, if you find a yarmulke too, you know what I mean? But anything else, you're going to have a... Okay, so it's very difficult to figure out.
That's my case with the spaghetti kugel, Gershon. That's my case.
If you find it in Cleveland, but you're Shalmi. But anyways, so Gufa, Matzah Batina Mushlach, Imrav Avidikachavim, Imrav Yisrael, Mechzal, Yisrael. Somarav, Leishanu Elahach Yosef. This is all talking about to make him live. Aval, the Yuchsin life, but for yichus doesn't count. The Shul Amar, the Fakech Sagal, it's talking about where he's considered a Yid, even that you're going to be Machal Shabbos with. So Gemara asks, did Shmuel really say that you could be Machal Shabbos for this kid? Right? Meaning you Machal Shabbos this kid only if there's a Roiv, right? For Shmuel it said if it's a Roiv Yidden, you Machal Shabbos. Mashma, if it's not Roiv Yidden, you're not Machal Shabbos. Did he really say that? V'amar Rav Yosef, V'amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Ein holchem b'pikuach nefesh achar haroiv. But pikuach nefesh, we don't go with the majority. Even the slightest chance, right? We all know that. You go with the slightest chance. So why is it that Mashad, according to Shmuel, only if it's Roiv Yidden will you save the kid from under the rubble, but not if it's not Roiv Yidden. Elok, so Gemara changes. Elok yitmar the Shmuel la reisha yitmar. Shmuel wasn't going on the save; he's going on the reisha. In Roiv avdei gechavim avdei gechavim. If the kid is found in a city that's Roiv Goyim, he's considered a Goy. And Amar Shmuel l'fakeach alavis agal eina kain, to take the rubble off of the kid, eina kain. He's not considered a Goy, and he's considered a Yid misafik. Right? So again, the Gemara totally changes. The last few days we had Gemaras where the Gemara changes, and the Gemara says, "Oh, but it doesn't say that." Here, Shmuel, we changed it from Cain to Eina Cain, right? Or we added the words Eina Cain, and I don't know why the Gemara doesn't have a problem with that. But either way, so again, what we're saying is that Shmuel is saying that even if it's a majority, the kid is found in a city of majority of Goyim, but you still have to save the kid on Shabbos, even though it's a small chance that he's a Yid. So then the Gemara continues, Im roiv avdei kechavim, avdei kechavim. If it's a roiv of the avdei kechavim, then the kid is avdei kechavim. L'may yichus. So what is the halacha for? Amar papa lachila nevelas, to give him nevela. Right? Meaning, are you allowed to give this kid a nevela? So I'm saying, yes, you can. Right? And so then Rashi says, actually, you're allowed to feed him treif, and kol shekain, you don't give him his lost object, and for nizakim. Right, which we're going to be discussing in a minute. Meaning he's considered a goy throughout, straight through. So then the Gemara says, okay, in Roiv Yisrael l'mayachu. So what are you teaching us? If it's Roiv Yidden, Amar Papa lahasale aveda, that you have to give him back a lost object. If the kid lost something, you're mechuyev to do hashavas aveda, right? So yeah. So Taisus asks, well, why don't you just say that you have to if it's Roiv Yisrael, then you have to just let him live. You have to feed him to make him live, right? So Taisus says it's a bigger chiddush to say aveda, right? Well, it's actually less of a chiddush, whatever it is, but you look at the Taisus there. So that's why it's saying roiv yidden. Mechza Yisrael l'maychus. So why are you saying if it's 50-50, he's a Yisrael? What's that halacha for? Amarish lakesh l'nizaken. That's for damages, right? Because yidden and goyim have two different dinim of damages, right? You have if a shar gores, so if it's only a tam, he pays chatzi nezek. That's if a yid does it. A guy always pays nezek shalim. So now Hechi Damigor says, what's the case? If it's our shar that gores his shar, lay, right? So why don't you say to the kid who you found who owns the shar, I see Ra'id Yisrael at ushkal. Bring a proof that you're a yid, and then we'll give you the money, right? So no, it's talking about where this kid's shar gored our shar. He has to pay half for sure, because mamonu shach. He has to pay half. If he's a yid, he has to pay chatzi nezek. If he's a guy, he has to pay everything. The other half, Amar lahu, he's gonna tell him, I see raya the lav Yisrael ano. You bring a raya that I'm not a yid, and I'll give you the other half. Obviously, we're talking about when we're under the jurisdiction of yidden. So this kid, I don't know how this kid who's got lost, he just appeared in town, him and a shar, right? And then his shar goes and he gores a yid's shar. That's the scenario we're saying. So he gores a yid's shar. So if the guy is a yid, he only has to pay chatzi nezek. If he's a guy, he has to pay nezek shalim. So this Suffolk kid here tells us, I'll give you half, because that for sure I have to do either way. And the other half, you prove that I'm not a yid. I'm telling you that I'm a yid. So I only have to pay you chatzi nezek. You prove that I'm not a yid, and then I'll give it to you, right? So it doesn't work.
The cotton of the guy is chayiv for nezakim.
Is a guy cotton? I get from here it's mashri, yeah.
Why? There's no dinim for cotton, even by Akum.
I'm not sure. I didn't even think about that. All right.
Yaakov,
Yeah.
would this be moment on multiple suffix Falcon on that other half?
I don't know. I think it's moment.
Are they mechadish that it's not true that the other half is not moment?
You want to say you want to say that's a suffix? I hear. Maybe.
No, there's a muhsik. There's no chalkim with a muhsik.
Okay, 1 second. Let's just finish the sign off, then we can continue this because I guess we should start. We'll do the Mishnah tomorrow. Okay, so Hadron Aloch.
About to mute everybody.
Hadron Aloch, Pesula Nisses, L'chaim, first parak in Ksubis, and we should continue, even though the next parak is a continuation of this parak, but L'chaim. And Pesuras Toivus. Oh, I still got some seltzer left. Here we go. Anyway, so what are you saying, Akiva?
Why is this not moment on multiple suffix? That's what I'm asking. Is it a mosaic?
It is moment on multiple suffix. There's a mosaic.
So according to Sumkas, you should be Cholkin on the other half.
According to Sumkas.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish.
When are we getting to Bava Basra?
It's Bava Metzia, actually.
Sorry, Shlomo.
Exactly. Why not? Why not Shas Cutting? We're allowed to do that, no?
You could try
100%.
That's why it's called Shas Cutting.
Wait, we officially finished for tonight?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Shikayach.
Yeah, no problem.
Now he's not going to ask him. Now that we're officially finished, he has no more questions. Only when we're at the finish. That's when he...
No, I was about to say, sorry, Parrots.
Parrots, let's be honest, Parrots. You missed muting him also. You missed the opportunity.
I'm just saying, bottom line is some people like to ask. They don't have to. They're going to stop. There's no more questions from us.
Yeah. See, I like questions. I like these better questions that come in, like, what age should I stop giving my kids baths together? You know, this stuff I could give svaras. Right?
Are they both boys?
What? 18 parents.
Tiago, you missed last night. Last night, the camp mother was watching.
Yeah, your parents, it doesn't do anything. Tiago knows my kids too.